As if they owned the rails, they strode into the private terminal. It is sufficiently sharp to break glass voices that are loud enough to be heard. Rightfully so. Untouchable. VIPs. A man wearing high-end sunglasses threw his briefcase onto a plush lounge chair and yelled at the attendant to get sparkling water instead of that flat trash. A woman wearing a navy blue janitor's uniform silently swept down by the shining tile next to the corner pillar. She had a faded name tag. Her shoes were worn. She had her hair tied back. Her eyes were low, as if she didn't want to be seen, and she moved with quiet precision. They became even more aware of her as a result. One of them grinned and said, "Hey, on my soul, you missed a spot." Laughter. Cruel. Reverberating. Another whispered to his friend, "Do you think she even understands what this is?" while waving $100 bill. They all chuckled once more. She swept nonetheless. The loudest and wealthiest of them all, Darren, then arrived. The cleaning cart is not as valuable as cufflinks. He strolled over, took the mop out of her hands like a trophy, and spoke louder. "My dear, where is your manager? It's not a soup kitchen here." It was the first time she looked up. Be calm. Still. She took out a federal badge from inside her jacket during that gasping breath. The room fell silent. Darren stopped speaking. The mop fell to the floor with a clatter. "Wait, what?" someone whispered. She remained silent, simply stared into his eyes, hard. Because of the one they made fun of? They ought to have been afraid of her.
The distant hum of an approaching train filled the platform, but the private terminal was silent, sterile in its quiet, unaffected by the station's typical mayhem. The soft, ambient lights above were reflected by polished marble floors. The waiting area was lined with immaculate, shining leather armchairs. Only a few people ever saw such a place, where tickets were whispered into existence rather than purchased. A woman walked slowly through the room wearing a faded gray cleaning uniform. Nobody listened to her. Why would they? Instead of a briefcase, she was carrying a mop. Instead of heels, she wore old sneakers. Her dark hair, neat but unremarkable, was tied back. No one ever bothered to look at her badge, which read, Maya. Moving with quiet efficiency, she repositioned a chair with subtle precision, wiped the floor close to the wall, and repositioned a misplaced magazine on the table. However, each movement had two functions. She glanced at the ceiling and took note of each camera's position. One's feed was delayed by half a second. Behind the potted plant, another had a blind spot. She stared at a vent duct above for a moment, big enough to hide a weapon if someone knew what they were doing. Without blinking, she filed the observation away. She wasn't doing any cleaning. She was getting ready. She breathed deliberately and slowly. Her posture was fluid. Like muscle memory developed over years of training, every action is performed with little effort. The kind of ease that can only be acquired by survival and repetition. She reached forward and saw a faint scar on her left wrist, just below the sleeve. A wound from a knife. Old, cured, but accurate. It was from a mission that went awry in Marrakesh 3 years ago. Not from a street fight, not to conceal it, but to remind herself her hand touched it for a moment. Remain true to yourself. Invisible, just a mop-wielding shadow. A voice whispered, 2 minutes out, from a covert earpiece hidden behind her hairline. Target's group is coming early. Maya remained silent. She simply leaned the mop against the wall and started polishing the already spotless countertop near the coffee machine. She looked back at her reflection. Calm eyes, concentrated, making calculations. She practiced the files one last time inside. There are 6 people coming. There were 5 distractions. One was the asset, which could be hunted down or compromised. It was her responsibility to remain discreetly nearby, prepared to step in if necessary. She looked around the room once more. There is a fire extinguisher by the door. The emergency exit is locked, but it is easily broken. There was one guard at the door, slack-jawed and overconfident. This place is too quiet. We're either early or another person is already observing. Her thoughts were interrupted by the click of heels on marble. She didn't look around, continued wiping. She could see the terminal door open through the reflection. A man wearing a charcoal suit entered with two other men wearing high-end coats. There was a roar of laughter. Then another man appeared, tall, arrogant, wearing sunglasses indoors, flashing his wristwatch at no one. They ignored her as if she didn't exist. Maya remained in the same position. Her body, however, changed inside. Every detail was noted. A control panel mounted on the wall was too near one of the men. Strategic or harmless. Another retrieved a small item from his coat and repositioned it in his pocket. They shouldn't be this early. Train ETA 6 minutes, hold your position, don't participate. She removed a tiny, fictitious smudge from the table, then retreated into the shadows close to the vending machine. The men were still unaware of it. However, one of the most decorated tactical operatives in her division was the quiet woman they had just passed, the one with the worn sneakers and calloused hands. Formerly in the military, intel expert, leader of 3 overseas assignments, working under heavy cover at the moment. And if, within the next 10 minutes, things took a turn for the worse, it wouldn't be her who would run.
Platform 12's waiting lounge, which was exclusive, quiet, and oppressively immaculate, glistened with gold-trimmed chandeliers and polished marble floors. Mop gliding in smooth figure eights, Maya moved across its gleam like a shadow. Her uniform hung loosely around her body. It was a dull gray with a patch that read simply, "Custodial Staff." Under the synthetic fabric, sweat ran down her spine, but she chose to ignore it. She stared at the reflection on the gleaming marble floor tiles where the shadows behind her grew louder. The first visitors had shown up. Laughter, the kind of cackling that fills a room without permission, loud and unfiltered. The VIPs, 3 men in fitted suits with designer sunglasses still on their noses even though they were indoors, came in through the glass doors. With their heels clacking like a metronome to arrogance, 2 women followed them, clad in a storm of perfume. One man moaned, "Oh, God, this place smells like bleach." Maya didn't recoil. Her gaze stayed downward, fixed on the waxed marble reflection of the corridor. At the concierge's desk, she noticed them pause. One snapped his fingers and she heard it. "No bellhop? Not even champagne? What sort of terminal is this, elite?" The concierges uttered a soft whisper before vanishing into the corridor. She took that as a sign. Maya's hand tapped the earpiece that was hidden beneath her cap. "6 are on the way. Out loud. Uninformed, perhaps elevated. Not moving." Then a voice. "Take a copy of that. We're observing." She returned her attention to her mop. "Hi!" A voice sounded like a whip across the lounge. "You there! Girl cleaning!" She continued to move. "I'm speaking to you." A heavy footstep approached. Maya slowly stood up, turning her head just enough to catch a glimpse of him. Tall, tan, a thick enough gold watch to serve as a boat anchor. She was already familiar with his name. Darren Claiborne, son of a disgraced banker, CEO of a failing cryptocurrency startup, and the focus of multiple sealed investigations. His dossier resembled a slow-motion auto accident. He sneered, "Are you even permitted to mop while we're in here? You're disrupting the mood. Dignitaries are welcome here, not employees." Maya nodded briefly. "Just carrying out my duties, sir." Darren chuckled as if she had cracked a joke. "Sir," he jeered, "my business pays more in taxes than your salary in 10 years, you know. Perhaps refrain from spreading your rustic aura close to our seats." The others laughed behind him. With a smirk on her face, one of the women lifted her phone and began recording inaudibly.
Maya circled them slowly and went back to her mop. She reminded herself that they weren't the threat. Still. A faint tremor on her wrist. Unknown male. 3 minutes out. She did not experience an increase in heart rate. She inhaled through it. Darren wasn't finished. Have you ever considered improving your life? He stepped closer and pondered loudly. Come on, you're still young. You seem like an ex-military person with sad eyes. You could work for me, personal cleaner. Even the mop would be yours to keep. He extended his hand to touch it. Maya's hand gripped the handle more tightly. Don't touch that, please. He hesitated, feigning offense. Oh my God, did I offend the janitor? She repeated, more firmly, don't touch it. Her voice had fallen into its true register, firm, clipped, and unyielding. He held up his hands. All right, keep your overalls straight. He laughed and turned back to his group. God, the mindset. These folks behave as though they are important. With her eyes darting to the clock, Maya thought, you'll matter soon enough. 2 minutes. Then abruptly he turned around again. You know what? I've had enough. Let's have some fun. Too costly, too desperate, he took another step toward her, this time close enough for her to smell his cologne. You've been fired. The room went cold. Darren looked at his friends. You heard me. I'm going to fire you. Leave this place. We want you out of the place. I don't work for you, she muttered. He smiled. That's rich, I see. You think you can act like some sort of just because you have a mop? Maya dropped the mop, reached under her cleaning apron, and pulled in one fluid motion. Out came the badge, glossy, gold. The Federal Protection Bureau issued it. There was silence in the room. She held it up to their ignorance like a mirror. Maya Ravik, an agent, Federal Defense. You're getting in the way of a clandestine operation in a dangerous area. Darren's expression slackened. What the devil is this? Maya didn't flinch. Sit down. Once again, the voice in her earpiece crackled. The target is coming. 10 seconds are out. Maya didn't even give Darren a glance. Her eyes were alert as she turned to face the door. The double-glass doors opened at the exact moment. A man wearing a gray peacoat came in by himself, with only a small briefcase and a wearied look on his face. Maya saw him right away, because he walked as if he didn't want to be seen. She took a step forward. Mr. Brent? The man came to a stop. Nodded. Once more she flashed the badge. The federal government is protecting you. Please move aside. Confused, Darren advanced between them. Hold on. You're defending him? Slowly, Maya turned to face him. No, she said icily. I'm going to arrest you. The whole lounge let out a gasp. Darren laughed, taking a step back in nervousness. What? No, this is a mistake of some sort. With her hand on her hip holster, she took a step forward. Darren Claiborne, you are wanted. 4 federal counts of cyber fraud, 1 count of bribery, and a potential conspiracy to traffic digital assets through offshore accounts. It was easier than I expected because of your conceit. I have attorneys. Let them meet you in the city center. She gave a nod. 2 plainclothes officers came in from behind the bar area. As Darren yelled, his face flushed with shock, they cuffed him. The influencers stopped. Phones fell. Now no one chuckled. Maya picked up her mop as the agents dragged Darren away. She was right here the whole time, one of the women whispered to herself. Maya looked her in the eyes. You never know who might be watching. Then she passed them all without saying another word. She went back to work, or more accurately, its cover.
Look at this. She even brought her mop to the VIP lounge, said Darren, laughing. How adorable. Get her a tip jar, please. Maya remains silent. With her hands steady on the mop handle, she maintains a low gaze. Half amused, half uneasy, the others laugh. Nearby security looks over but stays put. Darren approaches. You know what? Let me assist you here. Perhaps you'll clean more quickly. It occurs when he takes the mop out of her hands. Maya straightens her back in a single, serene, well-practiced, and horrifyingly accurate motion. She takes the mop from him and moves forward, and raises her jacket's corner. A badge, shining, official, and a holstered sidearm in matte black, right next to it. Agent Maya Qureshi, Federal Intelligence Division, says Maya calmly. There are gasps. Suddenly, the laughter stops and is replaced by a stunned silence. Darren's hand remains partially raised as he freezes. What? I take it that this is a joke? Maya does not flinch.
It's serious. You are being arrested, Darren Lee Cartwright, for organizing international ransomware attacks and laundering $82 million in cryptocurrency assets using shell accounts spread across 6 nations.
Everyone looks. Nobody moves. Uncertain of who is superior, even the security personnel remain motionless. Maya takes a step forward. Her tone is icy steel. The VIP I was guarding wasn't you. I was hunting you. It's so quiet. Darren, who was once arrogant but is now pale, is the center of attention. He staggers backwards, attempting to speak but failing. You have no evidence. Maya takes a sealed file out of her inner pocket and throws it on a nearby table. When it fans open, IP logs, wire transfers, and surveillance images are visible. Enough evidence for 3 agencies and a red notice from Interpol. 2 plainclothes agents suddenly appear behind a decorative panel. Long before Darren opened his mouth, the trap had been set. Cold metal cuffs are snapped around his wrists by the same hands that once held a mop. As he is pushed to the ground, his expensive coat wrinkles. Minutes after they had been whispering behind Maya's back, the other VIP guests now stand aside, wide-eyed and silent. VIP woman, she was a janitor, she whispers to her friend. I was doing my job, she said, turning slightly. Justice isn't always dressed in a suit. It occasionally carries a mop and wears gloves. Maya takes one final look around the room. As Darren is pulled away, those who once made fun of her are now unable to look her in the eyes. She approaches, reaches for the mop. Finally, before leaving, he leans it against the wall in a poetic gesture. No smile, no arrogance, only the sound of footsteps on a tiled floor, and silence. There was no more laughter in the terminal. Thick, heavy, and resonant with the echo of what had just happened, silence clung to the room like smoke after a fire. Once smug and flushed with pride, Darren's face now hung low under the firm hold of steel cuffs. Where Maya had pinned him against the wall only moments before, his designer jacket hung crookedly, torn slightly. Her lips, which had referred to her as a cleaning lady, now trembled and were sealed shut. From hiding places, agents in black tactical gear advanced. Professionals exchanged silent respect by nodding at Maya. She didn't return the nod. She didn't have to. The other people, the travelers, influencers, and socialites who had joined in on Darren's jest, were motionless, the burden of their own shame, not a fear of violence. They were no longer able to look into her eyes. Their once loud, unfiltered voices had disappeared behind tense fidgeting and clenched jaws. One of them, a young man wearing an influencer badge and a platinum chain, muttered under his breath in a voice that was broken with shock, "She saved us." Nobody answered. Nobody had to. Maya remained motionless for an additional beat. The badge, which was a mirror of their ignorance as well as a symbol of the law, continued to shine in her hand. She holstered it in one slow motion. The weapon went back where it belonged.
Then, without saying a word, she did something nobody saw coming. She made her way back to the mop. The same mop that Darren had snatched in jest. The same mop at which they had chuckled. Gently, as though it had also been a weapon in her silent war, she picked it up. The bucket next to it was straightened, and Maya went back to mopping. As the agents escorted Darren out the side gate.
Just one blow, then another. Like the ticking of a re-established clock, the steady swish of damp cloth against tile filled the emptiness. It wasn't humiliation. Power was the issue. She didn't have to do it. She made the decision to do it. Because she never lost her dignity, even when the badge was taken away. A security guard stumbled forward, his gait uncertain. He attempted to speak, maybe to thank her or apologize, but Maya blew past him like a breeze through drapes. Before you know it, she was gone, soft and untouched. She reached the terminal's end by following her path, a long hallway with no audience and no signs. Now there was no sound from her boots. She didn't turn around, did not wait for a round of applause. She wasn't here to get attention. She came to work. She succeeded. And now she vanished into the dim light at the end of the corridor.
All they saw was a uniform, so they laughed. They made fun of her because they believed they understood her value. However, keep in mind that in a world where appearances can be deceiving, some uniforms conceal hideous creatures. Others conceal heroes. Therefore, consider what truth might be concealed beneath someone's clothing the next time you're tempted to make such a judgment. Because real power doesn't have to make an announcement. On occasion, it holds justice in one hand and a mop in the other.